This is page 40 in our notes. You may have a blank page in front of it, and that's fine, but I'm going to be using blue and green today for my colors, so I want you writing notes with me. This is for CFA 4. These are our notes, and this is going to be EE1, 2, and 3. So there are 3 standards on this test. Today we're going to be taking notes on exponents. This kind of goes along with standard EE1 and EE2. So we're getting a little bit of both standards today when we're dealing with exponents. The first thing I want to do is I want to make a chart. We're going to start with exponent form. What does it look like in exponent form? And then I'm going to make a line coming down a few. Then we're going to go to expanded form. And again, I'm going to make this chart coming down. And then standard form. And I'm going to trace this blue line here to kind of be our table. So the first thing I want to do is I'm going to write 2 to the third power. You could also call this 2 cubed. 2 is actually our base number. This is what we call the base. And then the 3 is what we refer to as the exponent. You've probably seen it before. It's a little number. So this is your exponent, the 3, and this is your base number. So 2 to the third power in expanded form means that you're going to take 2 times 2 times 2 to get your answer. Why are there 3 2's here? Because the exponent is 3. So that's how many times you take the base times the base times the base. So when you solve that, the standard form is just what is the answer? Well, 2 times 2 is 4. 4 times 2 would give us 8. In order to solve that, you may want to write like 2 times 2. That's a dot. That also means multiplication, which equals 4, and then times that by 2, which equals 8. So there's your 3 2's if you look at them that way. You do not take 2 times 3 to get 6. If I wanted you to do 2 times 3, I would write 2 times 3. This is 2 to the third power. I also call that 2 cubed. The next little thing, I'm going to put a little wavy line here in this section. That way I still have several lines here. So I want to make this similar to a chart that you're going to see on your assignment today. I'm going to leave this one right here blank. This blue line is going to be blank. So I don't know the exponent form, but the expanded form is going to say 1 times 1 times 1, and the answer is going to be 1 in standard form. In other words, looking at this chart, then what would my exponent form be? I would need to say it would be 1 to the third power, or 1 cubed, meaning 1 times 1 times 1. That 3 tells us how many times we take the base times the base times the base. The next row in this chart that I'm going to do, I will give you 5 cubed, or 5 to the third power. And I will also give you that the standard form is 125 for the answer. So what I'm looking for now is what would the expanded form look like here. So 5 to the third power, the expanded form would be 5 times 5 times 5. I would need 3 of them there. And when I do 5 times 5, that's 25, and 25 times 5 is actually 125. The next one I'm going to give you is 8 squared, or 8 to the second power. I will give you the expanded form as 8 times 8, and then I want the answer over here in standard form. And I'm going to give you another one as well so that you can solve both of those. I will give you 4 cubed, or 4 to the third power. I will give you the expanded form as 4 times 4 times 4, and again I want you to solve it or give me standard form. And in order to work these out, you would need to take 8 times 8, which is 64, 4 times 4, which is 16, times another 4, which is also 64. So when I give you 2, could you find the third one that I'm missing for? So that is something you're going to see in your assignment today, is filling in a chart. And the next thing I want to do in our notes, I'm going to move this up, is I want to talk about the word exponent. The word exponent, that is our term, so I'm going to box that in. It tells us how many times we're going to multiply the base number by itself, so I'm going to write that in. Tells us how many times to multiply the base number by itself. The exponent is also that little number that's raised, so that's another way to identify it. It is the, I'll put it in parentheses, the little number raised after another number. That's the way you can identify the exponent. The other term I was using was expanded form. So exponent form is where you actually use the exponent. Expanded is where you multiply it all out. Expanded form, you basically write it all out. How many times you multiply the base times the base times the base. So for example, if I ask for the expanded form of 10 to the third power, or I call that 10 cubed, you would write 10 times 10 times 10. And that's expanded form. You can use the x for multiplication, or you can use the dot for multiplication. If I ask you to solve 10 to the third power in standard form, standard, I kind of remember standard because it's kind of like solve and they both start with an S. Standard form basically just means to solve that. So standard form of 10 to the third power just basically means solve 10 times 10 times 10. And when you multiply 10 times 10 times 10, you get 1,000. That's 1 with 3 zeros because you had multiplied 3 zeros there, so your answer is 1,000. I had read a couple problems like this to you, like 8 squared, 8 to the second power. I'm going to put it in quotes. We say that 8 squared. We say it, so I'm going to put it in quotes. Or you could say it as 8 raised to the second power. 8 raised to the second power. Meaning that you take 8 times 8. I also give you an example of when I raise it to the third power, 8 cubed, or 8 raised to the third power. So I could say it in quotes, 8 cubed. Or I could say it 8 raised to the third power. So squared and cubed are the only ones that have like a different way of saying it. All of your other numbers like 2, 3, if it's raised to the fourth, raised to the fifth, raised to the sixth, that's the only way I know how to read it. They don't have any special term. Where did the squared come from? That comes from area. You label your answer squared. And then this comes from volume. You label your answer as cubed. So now I'm going to give you some other examples you're going to see on your homework, and you may have something like this that says, solve this problem. And they give you like 7 to the fourth power, and you need to subtract 6 to the fourth power. So what you would do to solve this, you would take 7 times 7, and then take that times 7 times 7. You also need to take 6 times 6, and take that times 6 times 6. Kind of put it in parentheses here. And then you still have to subtract the two numbers. So 7 to the fourth power is 7 times 7 times 7 times 7, and I kind of grouped them into twos because I know 7 times 7 is 49, and I know this one's 49. So then I would have to take 49 times 49 on my calculator, and yes, you may use a calculator on this, 2,401, but then you would also need to subtract it. Well, I know 6 times 6 is 36, and I know this 6 times 6 is 36. So when I multiply 36 times 36, I get 1,296. On my calculator, when I subtract 2,401 minus 1,296, I would get 1,105 as my answer. You can also plug this directly into your calculator, 7 to the fourth minus 6 to the fourth, and I will be showing you how to use the calculators to do that as well. The other problem I want to do that you're going to see an example of might look like y raised to the third power. So what does that mean? That means you take y times y times y. Because the third power tells us you take y times y times y. You do not take y times 3, because if I wanted y times 3, I would write y times 3. This is y to the third power. The exponent tells us how many times we take the base times the base times the base. So if I flip that around, what if I give you c times c times c times c times c then what would that equal? 1, 2, 3, 4. There's 5 of them, so that would be saying c to the 5th power. That's another way to say that those are the same thing. So today, your homework that you're going to practice on this assignment is the first page in the packet that I gave you. It is a worksheet. It is page 78 on one side and 80 on the other. You are going to do all, and you may use a calculator for help. Honestly, some of those are faster to solve paper pencil than they are to plug into the calculator every single time. I would use the calculator for some of the bigger numbers that you need help with. So what does that look like in the packet? That is the first page in the packet that you got, the exponent form. There's the table, the chart, very similar to our notes. And then you're writing each one in standard form, so you're solving using a calculator here, doing these. And then when you turn it over, the back side of it, there are 8 problems. 2 of them are multiple choice, and the other 2 you're just solving, and you can use a calculator to help you.